What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the 31 Days of Horror. I'm your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yes, 31 Days of Horror, Volume 7, Day 26, coming at you live and direct. Alright, so we're going to take it back to the 70s, specifically 1976, with a Shaw Brothers classic. Yes, I'm going out and saying this is a classic film. Directed by Mang Hao Ho, and also starring the man Danny Lee. And we're talking about the oily Maniac. Yes, Mang Hao Ho is got to be a very interesting director, because he directed The Flying Guillotine, The Mighty Peking Man, Black Magic 1 and 2, and The Oily Maniac, which is a very, among films. He's directed tons and tons of films, but this film, for his catalog, definitely stands out, but it stands out in the whole Shaw Brothers library, for sure. This is one of the most bizarre and most unique and utterly insane films ever made. And of course, it came from the Shaw Brothers catalog, Shaw Brothers Studios, so really, really crazy stuff. But again, yeah, starring Danny Lee, of course, from The Killer, among films. He's in like tons and tons of awesome things. We got Ping Chang in here, Lily Lee, we got Fang Q in here. Tons and tons of Shaw Brothers alumni all over the place in this film, which is really what Shaw Brothers does, man. They kind of stick to their own, and you see, like, when you watch a Shaw Brothers film, you're like, oh, I know that person, because they're in everything. They're really in all the movies. So that's very, very awesome to see. Like, I love watching films where you recognize all these faces and stuff like that. But getting into the synopsis of The Oily Maniac. So this one follows our lead character, played by Danny Lee, who is basically crippled from polio. He works in a law firm as like a lawyer's assistant, and of course something happens there one day where there's like an altercation over a contract and stuff. Anyways, this guy ends up getting stabbed. It's inside the law firm. It turns out that it's Danny Lee's uncle in the film, so he goes to visit his uncle in jail before they're going to execute him, and his uncle tells Danny Lee that he has this magic spell tattooed on his back that Danny Lee's father had given to him before he passed away. And basically this spell is something that can help him out and kind of rid the world of bad people and criminals and stuff like that. So he basically turns around and he fucking traces this magic spell off his uncle's back before he gets executed. And so he goes home and performs the spell and turns into the Oily Maniac. The thing is with the spell is that he has to use it for, it's basically like, it's a spell that helps you rid the people that have done you wrong in your life, and you're supposed to use it for good, otherwise you will die. That's kind of one of the rules to the spell and stuff like that. So anyways, he turns into the Oily Maniac, and he goes out there and he turns into this like anti-hero where he's fighting crime and ridding the world of all the criminals and the people that have done him wrong and stuff like that. So that is the premise of the Oily Maniac. So basically the Oily Maniac is based on a Malaysian legend of that very similar synopsis. It was about this Malaysian monster that was born of like crude oil and that exacted revenge on the people that had done him wrong and stuff. So they took that idea of this Malaysian legend and they kind of rolled with it. They kind of mixed it with like American ideas and stuff like that and created the ridiculous and utterly hilarious Oily Maniac. So my thoughts though, if you combined the greasiest elements of Joe Spinell and the Maniac with the Toxic Avenger, you get the Oily Maniac. That's literally what it is. It's the most ridiculous premise ever. Like I said, like this movie predates those movies, so it's kind of funny. And I always feel like the Oily Maniac influenced a lot of movies. And I was actually thinking before I jumped on here to do the review too, and I was like, man, this is like so the Toxic Avenger, man. It really is. But also Kevin Smith's shit monster in Dogma very much looks like the Oily Maniac when I really think about it. It's kind of funny actually, but man, this has got to be one of the most standout films like of all time, really. It's just so insane. This is something that you would see from Troma, but this obviously predates Troma making Troma movies and stuff like that. So the Oily Maniac is crazy. It's so utterly ridiculous that it's just about this dude basically getting revenge on the ones that have done him wrong and ridding the world of crime. So he's an anti-hero that is basically a huge oil slick. I love the Oily Maniac. It's got such sleazy moments. This movie's way more sleazy than you ever think it would be. You know, it'll just be, you know, it'll cut to a scene where a dude's like raping a girl and stuff, and all of a sudden he goes and turns into the Oily Maniac and rids him of the world, and you know, and it's crazy the structure of this film. So basically, it all starts out where Danny Lee's boss, he's a big time lawyer, and he's basically a criminal. He sets up these court cases, and he basically extorts money out of people and stuff. Like, he sets up these rape cases and shit where this woman didn't even get raped by a guy, and they settle for like all this money, and he takes all the money and shit, and he's ripping off people in contracts, what led to the death of this guy in his office and stuff. So this guy's a real piece of shit. So that's kind of where the focus is. He's having women problems in his life, so he's pissed off in that aspect and stuff. But so there is like a setup to him, and I really like the idea of like how he turns into the Oily Maniac. So the magic spell is basically, it tells him to dig a hole in his house. He digs a hole, he jumps into the hole, it fills up with crude oil, he jumps out as the Oily Maniac. It's ridiculous. He looks like a huge shit monster. So the cool thing about the Oily Maniac's character, he's like an anti-superhero, is what he is. He can jump really high, he's got inhuman super strengths, he can basically shapeshift. So if he's chasing a car or something, he can turn into like an oil slick and rip around the streets and get there really fast and stuff. He can regenerate. So if he's fighting, he loses an arm and stuff, he'll just regenerate, he'll grow back and stuff. He spits oil at you know, all these criminals and shit. It's absolutely ridiculous. There's so many insane scenes in this film. There's some great fight scenes. And, you know, I love watching... you know, Shaw Brothers movies are known for like their big high jumps and stuff, and like, you know, the kung fu action, but when the Oily Maniac is like jumping like 2 or 3 stories and shit, it just looks so damn funny. It looks absolutely hilarious. But the thing that gets me every time about this film is that it kind of plays itself serious when you have a premise like this. Is so funny for the viewer because it's literally a dude covering himself in crude oil, and I'm talking literally. So something's going down. It's like, you know, he sees the bat signal. There's some kind of criminal activity going on. He stops at a gas station, douses himself in diesel, turns into the Oil Maniac, and then goes and rids the world of these criminals. It's like so fucking funny. It's so utterly ridiculous, but it's like, it's playing itself serious to a point, and then it turns into that, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? But oddly enough, it is sleazy. Like I said, there's multiple rape scenes in this film where he has to go and deal with, and there's other scenes having to do with sleaziness and shit like that. Like, there's a scene that's actually on the cover right here, which is so funny. It's that scene is just comes out of left field. It really just kind of comes out of left field, and he has to rid, you know, he has to, you know, do some damage control in the scene, and it's so freaking funny. It's so funny. But yeah, all in all, man, this one actually has really damn good pacing. Like, the opening scene happens, it's got this setup, and then he goes home, turns into the Oily Maniac, and then there's tons and tons of scenes with him actually as the Oily Maniac. So I was very impressed with the amount of effects and stuff that they put into this film, and the amount of time they put into utilizing the anti-hero character, man. It's quite impressive, and there's really no downtime in this at all. There's like a little bit of relationship stuff here and there and stuff, but, you know, it all ends up with him killing people. Essentially just killing people. Now, one of the funniest things about this film is when he's going to attack people, you can faintly hear the Jaws theme music playing, which is so funny. So funny. He's a big oil slick monster, and the fucking Jaws music is playing. Man, I gotta say though, the body count in this movie is pretty high. Like, he does kill a lot of people. There's a scene on the docks where he must kill like 20 people in that scene. It's just absolutely ridiculous, but it's just so funny to see him like crutching down the road, and he sees a big drum of oil, and he jumps into it, and it comes out as the big Oily Maniac, and oh my god, it's so funny. I love these scenes, man. There's no actual transformation scenes. It's more he dips in and then he turns into it and stuff. It's not like The Howling where you get, or, you know, American Werewolf in London and stuff. It's done a lot cheaper. But all in all, man, this movie is fun as hell. It's fun. It's hilarious. It's ridiculous. It's sleazy. It's just ultimately so much fun. Like, even the ending, man, like, there's so much good, like, fighting action in this and shit. Like, it's just all in all a Shaw Brothers production to the fullest. But one of the craziest ideas that they've really ever had, which is still amazes me that this movie got made. You know, considering the director, like, some of the stuff that he's done, to go out and do this is utterly crazy. But I highly recommend the Oily Maniac, especially if you like the Toxic Avenger. and anti kind of superhero ridiculous movies. This was like Trauma before it was Trauma. Like I said, it's Trauma before it's Trauma, but like not as silly, if that makes any sense. You know, it's Shaw Brothers. It still has all the elements of Shaw Brothers films. It looks like a Shaw Brothers film. It sounds like one, and yeah, you can't really go wrong, man. But I love all the supporting characters in this, man. Like, it's so cool when you watch Shaw Brothers films. Like, you just know everybody. If you've seen a ton of these films, it seems like it's a family film all the time with all these actors and actresses and stuff like that. So, pretty damn cool. So, rating, I'm coming in at an 8.5 out of 10 on this one. I love this movie. I think it's damn fun. This is not a first time watch for me. I've seen this movie multiple times. I just felt like watching something today that I'd seen before that I wanted to have fun with and stuff. So yeah. So I think this is like one of the only ones that I've rewatched this entire 31 days, but it is what it is. How they recommend it, I will say this is an 88 Films release that's a Region B release. So if you're wondering, this is a Region B, so you will need an all-region player, or if you're in the UK, it's just a regular Blu-ray for you. So, highly recommend this. So much damn fun, and it's just like, it's something that you've never really seen before coming from, you know, Shaw Brothers. You just wouldn't expect this from Shaw Brothers. That's what blows my mind, but all in all, big bag of fun. All right, guys, that's going to do it here for day 26. Check you guys tomorrow on day 27. And as usual, deuces!